First draft got closed right away. No feedback, no nothing. So that was a good highlight of my time. I mean, um, I actually got promoted within a year from me joining
Okay.
the company. I was dubbed the star of KPMG. It was really good. It was really good because I had the initiative, I had the to do attitude. So it was a great sort of experience because one day you're suited, you're sitting down in this massive high-rise building at an office, you're doing your work. And another day, I'm in the desert talking to like a camel owner, like a camel farm owner in the desert,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm trying to assess the domestic um, sort of agricultural market in Qatar. And Qatar is a desert. All they have is
Mm-hmm.
camels and everything. So I had to actually go through the desert. And that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I think I learned a lot. This is exactly why I want to get back to consulting.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. And the promotion that you mentioned, this was, I mean, you received one promotion here, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So tell me about some of the other projects that you worked on, some of the other process improvement projects that you worked on. This was a good example. So other, initiatives that you were directly involved in.
So I worked in a lot of projects,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked in feasibility studies. I worked in strategic review studies. I worked in HR restructuring, human resource restructuring kind of sort of project as well, and different industries. And I mean, business process engineering as well is another kind of project that I worked in. And industries such as multimedia, education. I clearly remember this was a university that was about to open in Sharjah, and we
Mm-hmm.
benchmarked it against the University of Dubai and Holt in Dubai as well. Um, so that's the multimedia, education, real estate, oil and gas, and financial services. Those were the five
Mm-hmm.
industries that I worked in.
And you mentioned that you were able to kind of like lead to or secure 60% faster handover rates. So how were you able to do that? I mean, and what challenges did you address in
So,
doing so?
so most of, I mean, it has a lot of factors when it comes to handover. First, getting the right understanding, right? Getting the right to be picture. So this
Mm-hmm.
means that how do you how do you connect with the process owner within the organization? How do you understand what's going on? A lot of times people would just speak to the process owner and that's it, and then they'll decide that what, this is the as is sort of state. But a lot of times the process owner is basically a team leader, so they wouldn't be involved in a day basis. So I would actually go down to the floor and speak to the people who are actually implementing, who are actually doing the client facing work. I'll
Mm-hmm.
sit down with them. I'll see what do they do, how do they do it, what works, what doesn't work, what are the gaps that they have. Once I gain this understanding, then I look at the sort of the best practices that we already have in KPMG as a part of our process assets, and I make sure to validate a lot of the things that I think would work for them. So before I
Mm-hmm.
implement anything, I would sit down with the process owner. I would tell
Mm-hmm.
them, here are the issues that I see in terms
Mm-hmm.
of as a state, and here are the sort of solutions that I think would really help you guys. Does
Mm-hmm.
this make sense to you? Get a buy-in very early on. Get a buy-in early on, and then throughout the process of just developing that solution, make sure to have that close coordination with the process owner, because at the end of the day, a process owner has that responsibility. They have the responsibility of delivering a solution for the company that works best for them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
an example was basically we did um, set of manuals and restructuring for an auto services company, a major auto services company in Qatar.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, so one thing that I've noticed that this is, this seems to be a very chaotic um, environment.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has a standard way of doing things, and people were doing things their own way to various sort of degrees of success. And
Mm-hmm.
looking at their backgrounds, I've noticed that almost none of them had a background of working in an organization, in a corporate, like in a big organization that had a set of standardized policies and procedures. And this would
Mm-hmm.
have been their first time ever dealing with such a standardized approach of doing things, right? So I foresaw some issues. I foresaw some implementation issues.
Okay.
So this is where I suggested training. I suggested training and an implementation audit.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what the CEO approved, and then we went ahead with implementation. And this is an implementation that I did on my own. So you're talking about an entire organization, 5 departments.
Mm-hmm.
I developed their training material. I executed their training, and the result of that was, of course, like everybody was very happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO actually sent a direct email to the partner, the head of advisory in the Middle East, Rajesh Menon, commending me. He was like, you know what, everybody loves Mehdi. He did a great job, and we're very happy with doing business with you, and we hope to have renewed engagements in the future. And I had some challenges. I foresaw challenges actually. One of the challenges that I foresaw was pride,
Mm-hmm.
because again, a lot of it is cultural, right? So this
Yeah.
is an Arabic culture, and in the Arabic culture, pride is a big deal. So I foresaw the challenge that if I go in and try to attempt to train those guys, they'll have that attitude that, I mean, hey, I've been in this industry for the past 20 years, and here you are, you're just coming in and trying to teach me.
Mm, yeah.
So there's not going to be a lot of, um, credibility to my views, right? So this is
Mm,
where I decided to go to the most senior people and the people who
okay.
have the biggest amount of respect in their respective sort of departments. And I
Okay.
partnered up with them. I said, listen, guys, we both have the same goal, improving this company. I am the
Mm,
process specialist, but you are the area specialist. I would like to have you on the training as an SME.
right.
And that's exactly what happened. So throughout the training, whenever anybody had a question that was a bit more technical, I would say, I would refer you to the SME. The SME would stand up and they will answer the
That
question.
help
So
build your credibility. Right.
that
That's a
added
very
a lot of credibility, as well as added a lot of value to the people. People actually learned something instead of
important.
me reciting some cliche lines for them.
So you kind of like adopted a top to bottom training approach, starting from the management, from the leadership to grassroots level.
No, really, I'd actually say this is definitely a bottom up. This is definitely a bottom up. So when I say most senior, most respected, I don't look for senior people. I don't look for
Mm,
senior people. I mean, when I say respect, it means that their words are respected. Their leadership is respected. It means that I don't listen to this guy because he's my boss. No, I listen to this guy because I trust his background.
mm, mm,
He has a very credible point of view for me.
mm. Right, and these trainings, these help reduce process inefficiencies by 40%, right? You mentioned that there was a reduction in rework by 40%. And you also kind of like contributed to a 10% process improvement or process reduction for that matter by performing primary and secondary market research. Any particular new research strategies, recommendations, that you provided for better market insight, for better decision making?
Absolutely. So there were a lot of practices that were not implemented in the company at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it is a small practice, so people wouldn't think of things that Me and you, when we look at it, we would say, you know what, this is intuitive, this is a given, but they were not implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example when it comes to secondary research. Actually, market research in general, right? Both the secondary and the primary aspect of it. These
Mm-hmm.
are the things that take a big chunk of the project time, meaning that you'll end up charging your client more, or you end up making less profit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the shorter it is, the better it is for you. So for primary research, I started implementing surveys. I used open source sort of websites such as SurveyMonkey or even Google to conduct surveys to get a better view of the market. And you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about a week, like a 2 days long survey, and you get a lot of good insights. Um,
Mm-hmm.
based on that, and then we had both multiple choice questions as well as open ended questions. The reason
Mm-hmm.
why I had open ended questions was because that allowed me to do some text mining, some very
Mm-hmm.
basic text mining. The things such as sentiment analysis, things such as word cloud. Those gave us a lot of good insights. The other thing that I did when it comes to primary research is that make sure to identify the people that I want to speak to,
Mm-hmm.
identify the biggest actor in the market, and
Mm-hmm.
find an access point, right?
Right.
And then find the stakeholders in any supply chain. So I'll give you an example. We had a project of there was this restaurant chain in Qatar, and their source for meat was Syria. But then after the break breakout of the war in Syria,
Mm-hmm.
their supply chain got cut off. So there were so they we did a feasibility study for them to see if it's feasible for them to depend on domestic sources of goods.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I started looking at the sort of the industry supply chain. Um, where does the regulation come from? Who sources the live animals? Who processes the meat? Who distributes the meat? Um, Based on that, I identified the sort of the people that I wanted to speak to. One of them
Mm-hmm.
was basically just go to the Department of Agriculture in Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, back then, without even setting up an appointment, I just show up with my business cards. I said, "Hey, can I have a 10 minutes meeting with your head of?" I don't remember who he was, like what was his role exactly, but a person within the Department of Agriculture. We spent an hour talking about the trends, the market trends in the country, what the sort of challenges that the country has currently, what is the
Mm-hmm.
future forecast, what is the future sort of overview of the country, things that are crucial to our report, and the fact that they're coming from a government perspective, they have a
Mm-hmm.
big, they have a lot of credibility. So things like that, just know who you want to speak to, knowing what you want to know, and using tools such as surveys, um, just to get your information much quicker,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure to have your own theories before you're getting into a meeting, because like a lot of what you're going to be doing is validate what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there's a lot of homework prior to any meeting. There's a lot of homework prior to any primary market sort of outreach. This way, I don't spend a lot of time just knowing the overview of the market. Rather, I already know the overview of the market and the trends of the market and the issues of the market. I want to know nitty gritties. I want to know specifics in the market. So this is how you reduce the time that it takes you to get that understanding of the market and write that report as well.
Makes sense. That's a good strategy. And you also mentioned that you performed a gap analysis to create tailored policies and procedures. Again, this kind of like helped uh, contribute to 30% improvement in operational efficiency for your clients. Again, what specific policies and procedures did you create at this position, Mahdi? Just a few examples. like the some of the examples that you have shared before, some of the project examples. So I would love to have some more examples on these